the backing of this are locked Bitcoin, which cannot be spent. So they have to put Bitcoin and lock it. So there's no way that it could be like stolen. So even if hackers take over the attesters, no theft can happen.
They can censor, they can block the Bitcoin, but they can't.
Exactly. So we basically have our depositors locking with themselves and a set of relays just relaying the signal to ETH. And then ETH is the blockchain that is basically the source of truth.
Welcome to the Bare Metal Podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Ship the Code from RockawayX Labs. Thanks for tuning back into the Bare Metal Podcast. Today I've got here with me Aki Balogh from DLC.Link. Welcome, Aki.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to hit a very interesting topic, and that's using BTC and DeFi, which I think is a very exciting direction of expansion on the Ethereum ecosystem side. But I'd first love to hear, why did you decide to, you hit this topic? How did you get into crypto? What's your journey all the way to DLC.Link?
Just to keep it short, I've been a developer for 30 years. I was a VC in Boston in 2011. I also heard about Bitcoin in 2011, but regrettably, I didn't focus on it then. I went into AI, so I created an AI marketing company for 8 years, raised over $10 million, did the whole thing. And basically, after a while, just wanted to work on something different. And I thought, why not work on, sound money and decentralized systems and finance? And came over to crypto in general. The way I got into building on Bitcoin is kind of random. My friend built the Chivo wallet, and he was telling me that it's getting all these users and so on. And that made me realize, okay, Bitcoin has crossed the chasm. Everybody can have Bitcoin and everybody can understand it. It's very simple. But when you have bought some Bitcoin, like, what do you want to do? You might want to take a loan, or you might want to invest it to earn a yield. But at the time, 3 years ago, pretty much all the Bitcoin finance applications were CeFi. You would send the Bitcoin to Anchorage, they give you a loan, or you'd do something else. But it was all CeFi because Bitcoin is not compatible with DeFi. And then, of course, I was using WBTC, but wrap Bitcoin, but WBTC has a single custodian, so that didn't make any sense. And then there were some bridged versions, but that also didn't really make sense because then I have to send my Bitcoin somewhere else, and what if it's stolen? So around that time, I heard about DLCs, discrete log contracts, which are like a very simple type of smart contract that already exists in Bitcoin. I wouldn't even say it's a smart contract. It's like an if-then statement. I got fascinated by this and started working on it. Yeah.
Sounds really interesting. We're getting to... I'd love to get into how that works. So how did you design, how did you repurpose, where did you get the idea to repurpose the DLC contracts for this use case? And can you give us sort of like a high level view of how DLC.Link works?
Yeah, absolutely. So the canonical kind of DLC example that everybody has, so first of all, very few people have heard about DLC. So if you're listening to this, that's the alpha. DLCs were invented 6 years ago by the creator of the Lightning Network. He proposed basically it's like an if-then statement. It's a conditional payment system. You agree, like Alice and Bob agree that if, there's like a set of conditions, let's say they're doing a sports bet, Alice puts up 1 Bitcoin, Bob puts up 1 Bitcoin. There's an oracle that determines who won the game, and either Alice or Bob walk away with 2 Bitcoin. That's like the typical example. But there were a couple problems right off the gate with that. One is, who is the oracle? Like, who would you trust? And who is Alice and Bob? And why are they doing this on Bitcoin, and nobody has DLCs. So all of that, kind of led us down a different path. And we're like, okay, first, let's go back to first principles. Who is the oracle? Well, let's say you are using DeFi, like I was using Aave on Ethereum. So let's say I want to use Aave on ETH. Then I have taken my Bitcoin and I want to use it on ETH. Then I have chosen to trust Ethereum. Therefore, the oracle should be Ethereum blockchain. The entire Ethereum blockchain should be the off-chain data source into my DLC. And then, okay, Alice is me, I'm the depositor, but who's Bob? And we realized no party should be Bob, in that no party should receive my Bitcoin, because as soon as the Bitcoin can go somewhere else, it can be stolen or hacked, or something can happen to it. Or how could, if we scale it up and there's trillions of dollars of Bitcoin, which custodian would be big enough to handle liquidations on that? None of them at all. even bridges would be hacked or precarious and would not scale. So we realized a very simple system. Alice locks with Alice. Alice, the depositor, puts Bitcoin in and signs one outcome that they get the Bitcoin back. So Alice, another way of saying it is Alice moves their Bitcoin into a multi-sig that can only pay out to Alice. And the oracle that enables the payout is the entire Ethereum blockchain. And so then who is Bob? Well, Bob is just a set of relay nodes, we call it testers, that can monitor basically Bitcoin chain and Ethereum chain, and they can publish an attestation. In the DLC language, it's called the attestation, where basically saying, yep, Alice has moved the Bitcoin in, that UTXO is funded, that has been mined by Bitcoin, 6 Bitcoin block confirmations, I see it on my Bitcoin node, here's my attestation that that happened, which of course can be verified by anyone. But Bob cannot receive Bitcoin. And so we have this set of relays. So in our system, we basically have our depositors locking with themselves and a set of relays just relaying the signal to ETH. And then ETH is the blockchain that is verifying, that is basically the source of truth.
I just love referring to Ethereum as the off-chain source. This is a perspective that's very rare. Like Bitcoin is the chain, and then there's the off-chain world, that includes Ethereum. I thought
and everyone else.
That was pretty cool. I don't often get to hear that. That's a good one. But you mentioned. So we've got the high-level construction here. We've got the theoretical, the DLC contract, which is the form of Bitcoin code, which allows you to specify this type of gated exit transaction, or however we want to capture this. Then there are the attester nodes, and then there is this example of you being in DeFi. Could we take the deposit flow in more detail? So I deposit my Bitcoin, or I send it into a UTXO. I deposit it by building a UTXO of a certain form. Then those 7 attesters that you have that are part of the protocol, all or majority somehow need to observe this change and attest to the change, say, I have seen this. And then what else happens?
Sorry, and I left out the what does it do? It mints a wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. So basically, this is a way to create a self-wrapped Bitcoin, or a decentralized wrapped Bitcoin, where the depositor locks in self-custody. That mints in ERC20, and that ERC20 can go into anything on DeFi, on Ethereum, take loans against it, do staking on it or restaking or whatever, do options, do any kind of yield strategy that exists on Ethereum. It's just a regular, inert ERC20 representation. And when that is burned, then you get your Bitcoin back.
So how does the minting process work exactly? So I say, I wrap. First of all, the value has to be pegged to the underlying Bitcoin, right? No liquidations, no nothing. This ERC20 is equivalent
Correct.
of Bitcoin or the other chains, right? Okay. So the attesters together, or the majority, have the authority to call the smart contract and say, I'd like you to mint 1 wrap Bitcoin and deposit it into wallet XYZ.
Exactly. And actually so the attesters have a threshold. So with 7 attesters, it's a 5 of 7 threshold. We're moving now to 15 attesters to make 10 of 15 threshold. And the attesters use their private key. Each of them has a Bitcoin private key that they use to pass messages. That private key is used to create the DLC. So they're all baked into the DLC. And then it is used to relay this attestation message. And then on the ETH side, the smart contract is basically polling and waiting for that attestation to happen. And when it happens, it can mint the DLCBTC, which, as you point out, is pegged 1-to-1. So it's oracle free. There's no price. There are no other moving pieces. It's just you put in 1 Bitcoin, you get 1 DLCBTC.
What's the disincentive for the attesters to mint, WBTC? Just call each other up and say, "I want to mint more of this coin."
Yeah. So that's one of the advantages of the system, is that the only way that they can mint is if a UTXO is funded. So basically, it's on-chain activity, and an off-chain message passing. So and there are different kind of systems like proof of reserve. But to be honest, anyone can do a proof of reserve, and the system even comes with a built-in proof of reserve, in that it will only mint when that particular UTXO has that particular amount of Bitcoin.
So the smart contract will verify it will require a proof that the UTXO exists. Is that?
Exactly, yes. So the contract on ETH blockchain can verify that UTXO has a funded state. Exactly.
So the testers then cannot mint arbitrarily. Each WBTC has to be backed by an existing locked Bitcoin.
That's right. That's right. And even I misspoke. Each DLCBTC. That's right. The token is DLCBTC. But that's exactly right. Yeah, that's the system.
Okay. Have you guys integrated with anybody in the DeFi ecosystem on Ethereum yet, or is that like what's down the line? Are you guys? What partnerships are you guys building?
Yeah. So we launched on Arbitrum a few weeks ago. We set up a Curve pool, a Unit V3 pool. We are onboarding our first set of merchants. So I should kind of speak to that, because that's the next part of the story. Is in the beginning we thought, could anyone like me or anyone just mint DLCBTC? But there's one issue with that. If I'm just like an individual and I permissionlessly, anonymously put in some Bitcoin, mints DLCBTC, and then somebody else acquires it, they're using it, they have some risk. If I go away, if I disappear, or if I refuse to process redemptions, they will not be able to redeem the DLCBTC for underlying Bitcoin. Therefore, we want this set of institutions and kind of even small, medium businesses, even miners and even some high net worth, but we want there needs to be like a quality bar. So we need to have a permissioned set of merchants, which we call merchants, of institutions that are the backers, that are the liquidity providers for DLCBTC. This is actually more similar to like Circle, where you have a bunch of banks like Silicon Valley Bank, Wells Fargo, they each put in USD to mint USDC, and USDC is fungible, but if you want to redeem for dollars, you've got to go back to Silicon Valley Bank, and of course if Silicon Valley Bank becomes insolvent, then that's a problem and the token depegs. So the quality of these backers is important. The good thing here is, unlike Circle or Silicon Valley Bank, this one is not just arbitrary dollars in the system that may or may not be there. The backing of this are locked Bitcoin, which cannot be spent. So they have to put Bitcoin and lock it. So there's no way that it could be like stolen, or it has a segregation of custody built in. So nothing can like happen to it. Even if there are legal claims to that, then the keys just go to somebody else who then can process the redemption. But I digress. Long story short, having a permission set of institutions that meet some basic requirements is great. How does that differ from WBTC or some other concepts? Well, with WBTC, all of the Bitcoin is held in one place. With BitGo, here, all of the Bitcoin is held, the Bitcoin is held in self-custody. So if we have 100 merchants, they each hold, there are 100 places where the Bitcoin is distributed. So it's a more decentralized system. Is it fully permissionlessly decentralized? No way, and it never will be for that reason. So it's what's called a federated merchant network, but it makes for a safer DLCBTC than any other construction.
Do you guys have contracts to enforce this sort of an SLA with them, that the redemption has to be processed into a certain time? Do they have some skin in the game? How is this constructed? Because I think those partnerships are big, like the health of those partnerships is a big part of this ecosystem, right?
Yes. We do have a legal agreement with each of them where they, similar to the way WBTC works, there's a master services agreement where they agree to do that and pay the fees and so on. The merchants have a natural incentive to redeem, because the way the merchants make money is they take fees. So let's say, for example, our first merchant is Amber Group. They just finished onboarding this week, actually, so they're about to mint the first institutional DLCBTC. So they don't, they have to take Bitcoin off their balance sheet and put it in the unspendable, like they have to lock it. So that has an opportunity cost for them. but they make money by trading it. So they mint DLCBTC and they become distributors or wholesalers of the DLCBTC. They do OTC trades. They sell it to anyone who needs it. They have a couple of purchase orders they're going to satisfy already. They fill up DEXs and centralized exchanges. When the pools get low, they refill it, and they're able to charge fees like OTC trading fees for that service. So this is like a very established model. That is how WBTC has been operating for 5 years. But the difference is in the WBTC model, all the Bitcoin goes to one place where it could be regulated or stolen or whatever. Fraud could happen. In our system, we don't have that. There's not that counterparty risk. There is actually one risk in the system, which is quite unlikely, but the attesters, the reason we have multiple attesters, and the reason we're moving from 5 to 7 to 10 to 15, is if the attesters collude, like let's say the attesters form a cartel, they can censor the unlock and do a ransom attack on the depositor. So basically, like Amber has burned the DLCBTC, but the attesters refuse to publish the burn signal, and Amber cannot get the Bitcoin, so then Amber has to pay them a bribe to get their Bitcoin back. So for that reason, we decentralize the attester layer.
To avoid. And do you guys have any slashing in place? Like if you discover this like say an attempted censorship that an attester isn't performing their duty, they're not increasing the set of signers to reach the threshold, they're withholding the signature. Is that something that you guys track and detect, and do they get penalized?
Yes, so we are launching a DLC token specifically to help decentralize the attester network. Attesters buy the token, stake it. When they do, and they process attestations, they earn DLC token yields for each attestation. And if they don't do their job, then they either get slashed or they get booted off the network, and they lose out on their stake and also future DLC income. And again, they cannot steal. So even if hackers take over the attesters, no theft can happen. Ours is a theft.
They can censor, they can block the Bitcoin, but they can't take it.
Exactly. And if they censor it or block it, they would be able to do that once, and they would forego all future DLC revenue, and they could only extract some sort of bribe. So there are ways to kind of course, we're all in decentralized layers. There's ways to prevent that by working with attesters that have big brands that have more skin in the game. Our attesters are Hashkey, OKX, so like, etc. plus the token staking. So there's kind of different mechanisms to prevent the ransom attack scenario.
I get a sense that the set of the attesters is going to be permissioned somehow. Is this going to be sort of stored in a whitelist smart contract somewhere, or how is the set determined? Is that like a mutually agreed upon whitelist on all the attesters?
Yes, for now it is also permissioned. As we grow, we could see different constructions there, but it makes sense to start with the largest node operators with the greatest reputation that also run on the more nodes they run, the more networks they are on, the easier it becomes for us to launch on a new chain. So, we launched on Arbitrum, they're all running Arbitrum nodes, no problem. Next, we're going to ETH-L1, they run that node. But as we launch to Injective, Scroll, different chains, they also, it's a little bit easier if they're already running an Injective node. So the bigger, the better on the attester side.
Right. I'd love to dive into these, differences in terms of UX between the existing solution, like WrapBTC and DLCBTC. So why would I decide for DLCBTC? You mentioned a couple of things in terms of decentralization and custody. I think we'll set that aside, but in terms of operating and using, are there any advantages for me?
Yeah, great point. So DLCBTC is safer, faster, and cheaper. I'll break down each one. Well, the safer we talked about, you maintain your deposits. Faster is WBTC is actually a fully manual system. So when their merchants send them the Bitcoin to BitGo has to move it around between different vaults. When there's intense trading activity, that could take 12 hours or more. So if you're a trader and you want to mint some WBTC to take advantage of an opportunity, you've just lost 12 hours minimum. So this is a problem. Our system is fully automated because to mint it, Amber would move Bitcoin in, wait 6 Bitcoin block confirmations, the attester is a test, and the token's minted. So the traders can get in faster, so they make more money. So the speed of it is critical, and the same on the burn side. Of course, going out is also faster. And the cheaper is also quite interesting, especially to large traders, because there's a set WBTC fee schedule, just like we do what they do. We take Bitcoin on the mint and burn, but they have custody costs, vault costs, deposit insurance, like all the stuff. We are not a custodian, we're not a chain, we're not even a money transmitter. We don't receive any Bitcoin ever from customers. So we don't have those custody fees. So we pass the savings on to our customers. So DLCBTC is always at least 25% or more cheaper or less expensive than WBTC.
So then how does DLC.Link make money? Do you get a cut of the fees that the merchants have? Or is there a separate fee that gets extracted, say on the, when you're minting DLCBTC?
We take the mint and burn fees. So for example, using the Amber example, Amber has onboarded as a merchant. If they use the bridge, they pay at most 12 basis points and as low as 4 basis points depending on volume, but let's just say 12 basis points in Bitcoin to mint DLCBTC. They can then OTC trade that for 10 to 20 basis points, and they can trade it multiple times. So they could trade it 100 times if they want.
Clear it, yeah.
Exactly. So as long as they're carrying that inventory, they can move it. And then when they choose to unmint, they pay us another unmint fee, and that's it. But it's same business model as WBTC, but basically you're a fraction of the fees and 5 times the speed.
Just to dig into the fully automated, so the way I read it when you talk about it is it's fully automated for Amber as the merchant. The merchant doesn't need to talk to a custodian. That's where the savings is, right? There's no explicit custodian, which means they can self-service sort of lock the BTC in using just whenever they want at 3 a.m. in the morning in whatever time zone. But me as a trader, like the speed that I get as a user depends on the speed of Amber, but not on the speed of anything else in the chain. Everything else is automated, but the merchant is where it's going to be at. I'm going to have to pick like a good merchant that's going to be able to react quickly to my requests. Is that a fair characterization?
There's the other layer, which are the exchanges. So the merchants actually fill up pools, either on DEXs like Curve, or on centralized exchanges like OKX, who's one of our lead investors, or Binance, or etc. So the merchant's job, and n number of course, Amber might only do this once a week or whenever they get to it. But if there's other merchants and they see opportunity, there's a natural drive to get in there and get their DLCBTC working. Right. They are LPing, exactly. So once it's on a DEX, anyone can permissionlessly use it. They can swap their WBTC for DLCBTC, use that to do loans and DeFi, and then as they swap in, the pool reduces, which makes more of an incentive for Amber to mint in, because now they can take 1 Bitcoin and get something that is worth more than 1 Bitcoin, so they mint. So there's basically a natural mechanism. So for retail, it should be seamless. Of course, right. We just launched, so it's not seamless today, but over the coming weeks and months, it will be a seamless experience. They don't even have to worry about the level of DLCBTC. The merchants are supplying it to fill the current demand.
Right. I see. I think I have a better picture now. So the permissioned nature covers the minting and burning and sort of like keeping the volume or managing the volume of issued DLCBTC. But once the merchants plug into the rest of DeFi, they can actually make this pretty easy to use for everybody else who does not then need to even interact with the merchant. I think that's like a key point that I understood just now. Like that, I can just go and get DLC yes. without interacting with any of the supply chain.
Correct. Just like how someone might get WBTC, you don't know if Falcon X made it or Amber made it or Galaxy. It's irrelevant. It's just there in the pool. You use it and you acquire it and you use it. So it's fully permissionless from that point on.
I'm trying to understand what other, so BTC, what could you do with it? One thing, of course, using DeFi, get loans against it, or borrow, etc. Another big use case is staking. People want to be restaking or staking BTC. Would DLC.Link play any role in this, in this ecosystem?
Yes, actually, this is the thing I'm most excited about, especially now, is you can use native Bitcoin to earn a yield through these staking protocols or restaking. It's an ERC20, so it can go into EigenLayer, it can go into anything else, and there it's used to generate staking revenue. This concept of Bitcoin staking, of course, you can do everything with Bitcoin except stake it. Bitcoin cannot be staked, but the Bitcoin can be used as collateral to earn a staking yield from different chains. And so, and the great thing about this is it's fully composable. So as an ERC20, instead of creating a new chain or new system or whatever, or certain set of staking yield, like instead of just Cosmos staking, like what Balogh can provide, you can get any kind of e-staking that is supported in the EigenLayer or other ecosystems using the ERC20.
I think pretty exciting idea for Bitcoiners. So what's next on your plate? Like what's your main focus now at the company? What do you guys want to build? Give us the rundown. What's the next quarter like?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say we're still kind of rolling out the product in the sense that we're onboarding our first set of merchants. We're launching a merchant dashboard. Well, you can see the merchants that are backing it. Same like WBTC has a dashboard. So we're launching that. We're setting up the first price feed oracles. We're setting up the first incentive offers. So typically we ask, okay, cool, I can swap for DLCBTC, but what yield can I get and where? And of course, there's different protocol incentives and chain incentives. And so we're structuring those incentive programs to give people. We have an earn page we just set up. It's a little bit empty yet because we haven't fully locked in. The first thing you can do is actually take a loan on Ajna protocol and earn a yield, but the pools are quite small. So we're kind of just setting up all that infrastructure, showcasing a couple of yield examples. I think people will be able to earn a superior yield, in the 5 to 10% APY range, maybe higher for higher risk activities, lower for more safe activities, palatable to larger institutions. So it basically just opens up a lot of DeFi, and we're setting up those connection points now. And we're also going to be launching on multiple chains. So that's another side of it. It's very easy to launch DLCBTC on another chain because we just ask our attesters to run that node, and then they can publish attestations to that chain. We put a smart contract with the mint and burn function on that chain, and boom, ready to go. We find a liquidity provider to be the Amber for that chain, and we're ready to go.
Have you guys considered going the route of just having, say, Arbitrum or L1 DLC ERC20 and have that bridged by, say, Layer 0 or XLR or somebody? And because that would avoid your attesters having to run so many nodes. So I'm wondering, what's your thinking around this type of scalability?
Yes, so a couple answers to that. We are partnering with a bridge provider that will be announced on June 4th. So stay tuned for June 4th. Big announcement coming. Some chains like ETH1 we will initially bridge to, but then we will want native minting because that's an issue with a lot of chains. They don't want bridge wrap Bitcoin. They just want as native as possible. So the larger or higher, higher priority chains will native mint to. Otherwise, we can bridge. There are some cross-chain swap protocols that have permissionlessly already set up DLCBTC. So this week on Swing XYZ, you can now swap DLCBTC for other stuff. That was permissionless, which is really cool. There's some other ones we're announcing. So yeah, basically bridging everywhere, swapping. We're talking with some atomic swap protocols like Portal DeFi and some other ones. So you can do in the future, you can even do a Bitcoin L1 atomic swap to DLCBTC via kind of like a Thor swap kind of model where they have liquidity pools. So we're setting up all the swapping, bridging, and the DeFi protocols. For us, the big thing is finding yield offers because our audience, they want to earn yield on their Bitcoin, but they want to earn it safely. And basically, right now, there are a lot of chains and Bitcoin L2s where you can bridge in to earn yield in their native token, But of course, there are risks of that because not your key is not your Bitcoin. So here we want to just create an ecosystem that offers a safer alternative.
Sounds pretty exciting. So that sounds like a good place to end the episode. So thanks very much, Aki, for coming on and explaining DLC.Link. I think that's going to be a project to watch.
Thank you very much.